Well, hello there, teacher friends. This is Christina Whitlock, your self-proclaimed anytime piano teacher friend, coming to you live from the MTNA conference in Reno, Nevada. A longtime listener asked me recently when I was going to have another storytime episode of this podcast. For those of you who have been around since the early days, I have a couple of more lighthearted episodes, namely episodes 7 and 16, where I basically told stories from my musical past. I kind of can't believe that it's been over 100 episodes since I released a Storytime chat, but it feels like time to do it again. So, without further delay, I give you this. Episode 119, a Storytime episode, the Music Teacher Conference edition. If you aren't into the conference scene, have no fear. Today's stories are all about the people in our profession, not about the conference experience itself. Anyway, again, I'm Christina Whitlock, your host for today, and here we go. If there's one truth that I have learned since entering the world of online content creators, it's this. The voices in our profession that you know and love and respect, they are indeed quite fantastic. But just because they are the voices who end up more widely known, it does not automatically make them any more wise than anyone else. That is especially true of me. A lot of you know me now, and I certainly don't pretend to have any of this world completely figured out. But newcomers like me and all the longtime bloggers and composers and writers and teachers that we've all grown up admiring, the thing about them is the fact that they are the ones that are willing to put themselves out there. And truly, that is no small feat. Putting your work out into the world takes so much courage. So I am always all for giving anyone props if they're willing to do that. And in the end, the stories that I am sharing today all come back to the fact that we are all equally human. There are no superhumans among us. Sure, there are people that we look up to and who have accomplished great things. And it's fun to meet people whose work you have long admired. But the truth of the matter is, there is no one walking among us who is any less human than we are. We've all said the wrong things and made situations awkward. We've all been wrong. We have all had embarrassing performances. We all make awkward sounds in the bathroom sometimes. There are no exceptions to this. And connecting with people at conferences is one of the best ways to remember this fundamental truth. So, in honor of the MTNA National Conference that is happening right now as this episode releases, I thought it was time to share some of my favorite conference stories. Our first story today is a flashback, way back to the World Piano Pedagogy Conference, which, by the way, is an event that no longer exists, but once upon a time, it was held in Las Vegas. And I attended my first and only World Piano Pedagogy Conference in 2006. I remember lots of things about that conference. I remember a particularly great session on studio business. I remember a masterclass with Leon Fleischer in which he told the student it was sometimes okay to play with a flat finger. And there was this audible gasp from members of the audience. I remember John Perry playing Beethoven, Opus 109, 110, and 111. But my favorite memory of that conference is this. Now, this is highly unusual, but that conference included a buffet-style lunch one day. I must have arrived a little bit late because I ended up being the next to last person in line for food. When I got up to the serving table, I reached to grab my plate, and it was the last one. Behind me stood a very kind-looking woman, and we made eye contact over this socially awkward moment. I looked beside that single plate I had just reached for, and I saw a heated tray of rigatoni with like maybe 7 noodles left in it. And we both got a little chuckle. Apparently, this was not the lunch to arrive late to. But before I knew it, she and I were laughing, and we devised a plan to share the plate and the few rigatoni noodles that were left. They also must not have had any chairs left, because I definitely remember that we stood together while we ate our one small shared plate of noodles. And as we talked, I learned more about her, and lo and behold, this lovely human was none other than Joyce Grill, who is a powerhouse of a composer for Alfred Publishing. I would be shocked if you haven't taught her work in your studio, because she has written so much terrific music. And I assure you, there has not been a conference since where I haven't made a point to spend a nice amount of time chatting with my friend Joyce in the Alfred booth in the exhibit hall. I also know she follows this podcast, so hi, Joyce. My students love learning this story when they play her compositions. They think it is so cool that I have shared an actual plate of food with their composer. It is an excellent reminder that those names that we see printed at the top of our music belong to actual living, breathing people who sometimes arrive late to a meal, just like me. Anyway, Joyce Grill is awesome, and I am so happy that we shared this fun little story. So thank you, World Piano Pedagogy Conference, for underestimating how much food and how many chairs that you needed back in 2006. Joyce didn't attend the MTNA conference in Reno this year, and I already miss her. All right, so speaking of people that you meet at conferences, let's jump to the year 2014. This time, we are at my state MTA conference. I had recently been named president-elect for the state of Indiana, so I was feeling pretty official at that point. We were gathering for our board of directors meeting, again over lunch, and I spotted an open seat next to a man in a suit who I didn't recognize. Now, granted, I couldn't see his face. I just saw the back of his head, and I noticed that he was wearing a suit. So I guess I just assumed he was, I don't know, maybe a local chapter president that I hadn't met yet, or someone else who just didn't typically attend our regular board meetings. So I don't know what I was thinking, but I pulled out my chair to sit down, and I didn't even look at his face before I shot my hand out to him, and I said, "Hi, I'm Christina Whitlock, president-elect. What's your name?" And of course, I was feeling very important, mind you. The man turned his kind face towards me, and he said, I can still hear the sweet inflection in his voice, "Hi, Christina. I'm Marvin Blickenstaff." And then I died a little bit. Because if you don't know who Marvin Blickenstaff is, well, he is just this enormous contributor to the field of piano pedagogy, and I don't even really know where to start when I'm trying to describe the influence he has had on our profession, but anyway, just know he's a living legend. And there was me just shooting my hand out and introducing myself to him like I was the big deal. I was so embarrassed, and I have since learned a very important lesson to make sure that I actually look someone in the face before I speak to them. It's a good rule. But of course, if you know anything about Marvin Blickenstaff, it's that he is gentle and wise and humble and exceedingly gracious. So I now count myself lucky that I got to sit by him for that board meeting. I mean, why hadn't someone already scooped up that chair before I got there anyway? Oh well, lucky me. And that's really the thing about music teacher conferences. You just never know who you're going to end up seeing in an elevator or in line for coffee. I have made so many lovely friends just from choosing the right seat at a session or asking someone a question in passing. And that right there is the magic of conference attendance. I mean, sure, I definitely learn a lot from the sessions. I really do. And I'm kind of nerdy in that regard that I want to attend every session I possibly can. But in the end, it's getting in close proximity with other people, other teachers. It's reminding yourself that we all have something to offer this profession of ours. It's conversations over meals when you really get to hear what works for people and what doesn't. Now, of course, we all have our starstruck moments. I remember one time many years ago seeing Wendy Stevens walk past me outside the MTNA exhibit hall, and I desperately wanted to go say hello to her, and I just didn't work up the nerve. Little did I know that just 1 year later, I would be having lunch with Wendy Stevens and Amy Chaplin as Amy and I tried our best to work our magic to get Wendy to come to the Indiana State Conference the following year. I mean, it's so comical to me because Wendy Stevens is so approachable. She balances her great wisdom with a lovely sense of humility, and no one should ever be scared to go talk to her. Yet 7 years ago, I sure was. And I say all of these things, conference or no conference, because I do hope that you will feel emboldened today to reach out to someone in the profession and tell them that their work has meant something to you. It never hurts to tell a composer that you love their piece. I don't think they can hear that enough. It never hurts to tell an author that their book helped you see something in a new light. Sometimes we think these people have to already know what their work means to the general public, but it's just not true. It doesn't work that way. It is never a bad idea to tell someone that they have done their job well or made a difference in your life. And I have made that my mission at conferences for the past many years. It's like, who can I track down now and tell them how much I love their work? Like, who can I get a picture with so I can show it to my students when we play their pieces? All right, on that note, friends, I'm going to wrap us up with a toast to us and to those in our profession who we admire. Music teacher friends from all over the world, today we raise our glasses to the collective wisdom found in the music teaching profession. Seriously, who among us does not have incredible ideas? And the more music teachers you know, the more opportunities you have to collect new ideas. And then we teach those ideas to our students, some of whom one day will go on to share them with students of their own, and on and on and on the cycle goes. It's that concept of legacy that I am absolutely obsessed with in our profession. The honor of being a link in this chain is so satisfying. And with that, I say cheers to all the links in the music teacher chain. May we continue sharing and inspiring and bettering the lives of our colleagues just by being there for them. Hear, hear. That's it for episode 119, my friends. I'm going to leave you with a few quick announcements before we wrap up. If you are feeling in need of some teacher friend inspiration, I want to remind you that our next round of Teachers Teaching Teachers, that's TTT, takes place on Friday, March 31st at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you're interested in checking that out or getting the video replay, I want you to check out the link in the show notes to our Patreon community. Entry is $6 a month for an hour of sharing with other brilliant studio teachers. I pick a piece from the repertoire and we all talk through different strategies in terms of how we would teach that piece and others like it. I think you will find that to be incredibly valuable for that $6 a month, and I hope you'll try to check it out. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions. Also coming up, I've built a little incentive for my Studio Foundations course. The Studio Foundations course is a compilation of 14 foundational principles that I believe lead independent studio teachers to a lifelong sense of satisfaction and effectiveness in our profession. So, anyone who registers for the Studio Foundations course before April 1st will be invited to a special 2 hours, guys, a 2-hour Zoom call to talk about all things teacher philosophy and life. If you use code MTNA20, you can receive $20 off your course registration, which makes it $109 with that free 2-hour Zoom call. 109, by the way, is my favorite number. I was originally only going to discount the course $15, but I'm a numbers nerd and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to make it 109. So that's only until April 1st. Your course access for that material is never going to expire. So if you want access to that special 2-hour Zoom invite, and if you want to save $20, I would get on that now. You can find links to the Studio Foundations course by going to christinawhitlock.com/foundations or check out the show notes for the link there. Okay, thank you so much, friends. I think that's it for now. Onward and upward to your next music teacher story.